Hello and welcome to episode 9 of the Canas podcast. I'm Victor and as always joined here by Celso.
Hello.
And this week we will be continuing talking about Canadian athletes because it's the whole point of the show.
Yes.
This week we'll talk about the main four that we always talk about: soccer, NBA, NFL, and NHL. We'll also touch base a bit on tennis, some disappointing results for Canadians, spoiler alert, but yeah, just very disappointing. And then, just go from there, and I'm sure there's a lot happening in the last 2 weeks anyway, so there's a lot to talk about. So we'll start with soccer. The Canadian women's national team is in their international break at the moment. They're playing 2 games in Mexico. So I remember how we were saying, they're not going to play their all home games. Yeah, we were right. They're playing away games in Mexico. They lost 2-1 actually yesterday. Unfortunate result, but it's a friendly. I don't really think it does much deal anyways. I mean, they lost ranking points, but it's not the end of the world. And they had I think they only had half of their starting lineup that they played in the Olympics. Oh, okay. So it was like a depleted lineup. So
even in friendlies, you lose or gain ranking points?
Yeah, it's not as much. As much.
But still,
it's a fraction.
So basically, any game is important, I guess.
Pretty much. Yeah, if you want to keep on going up the rankings, but it's interesting because I was looking at the FIFA ranking point system. It's a lot of math, and I took a university math course, and I still don't fully understand how to do it. It's a lot of math. The difference in ranking is taken into account, the type of game. So I think friendly is you multiply whatever score it is by 0.25, and that's how many points you get total. And then you divide by 10 to the power of the difference in age or rank. It's weird. Google FIFA ranking system and you're gonna be confused for a week. I'm still confused. Yeah. It's brutal. But yeah, so the women might go down a little bit of points, but it's not the end of the world. I mean, they still have another game, I believe, on the 30th that they'll play against Mexico in Mexico again. I mean, it'd be nice to see them win. Obviously, you always want Canada to win unless you're the opposition. But even then, Canada's so nice that you're just whatever, man. I'll let Canada win. They're nice. But so that's the women. That's what they're doing right now. Obviously, with the international window, there's not much club play going on at the moment. Mm-hmm. We have, I'm looking at the rosters. They're so good at bringing up young people. That's such a young team, and it's going to be young for so much longer. It's such a strong team. I'm so excited for what the future holds for these women for sure, and men, which we'll touch base on as well. They're both young programs, and we have John Herdman to thank for that for sure. He has to get the Order of Canada, dude. I've mentioned it every single freaking episode. He needs to get some high recognition from the Prime Minister, Governor General, whatever it is, because that man has rejuvenated this sport in this country, and I would almost say single-handedly to start. And then Christine Sinclair was a massive part of it too. And then now Alphonso Days is taking a huge step forward with that. I mean, it's a little narrow-minded to think it's just those 3 because there's a lot of people in the backgrounds, but they are the faces of their programs.
Canadian soccer kind of thing?
They are the 3 faces. I think, obviously there's no stat for this, but genuinely, in my opinion, if you put a picture of those 3 up across the entire country, I would think that, I don't know, at least more than half of the Canadians would know who that is. I would recognize them and probably in the 80% be yeah, I know who this person is. And 50% that's this so-and-so and so-and-so. It's nuts. It's nuts how much of an impact these 3 have had on our country in the sports scene and soccer specifically yeah. Football, soccer, whatever you want to call it. But I think the biggest news to come out of the women's team, though, is the FIFA Ballon d'Or. So the individual awards are presented at this time of the year. It's the end of the year.
Yeah.
Or they're recognized, I guess, and mentioned. 3 Canadians are in the running for the 3 major awards for the women's side, which is absolutely fantastic. So I think that's the first time we've ever had 3 Canadians in it. We've had one. Often, Christine Sinclair has been nominated a few different times for their top award, and spoiler alert, she's nominated again. We have our coach is nominated for the best manager coach of the year, Bev Priestman. She's not technically Canadian, but she's representing the Canadian team, so gives us reason to talk to her or talk about her, I guess. Could you imagine if we had somebody like that on the podcast one week? That's the
That'd
dream,
be
man.
just-
That's the absolute dream.
Yeah.
And then
We'll get there. We'll get
one
there
day.
eventually.
One day.
Eventually.
Keep on subscribing. And
Yeah,
we'll
right?
get there. Yeah.
You guys got to help us.
Exactly. And then we have Stephanie LeBay, the Minister of Defense, nominated for the Best Goalkeeper Award. My realistic guys, we get 2 of 3.
I can do that, yeah.
We get 2 of 3.
Yeah.
I mean, how can you not give the coach who won the Olympics when nobody expected them to win the Olympics? And how can you not give it to the goalkeeper who almost single-handedly won us 2 games, right? Sinclair has cemented herself as definitely top 2 players of all time. I think there's a fair argument between her and Abby Wambach just because Abby Wambach has done it in fewer games. But I don't think there's anybody on this earth that's done more for her international program or for her country and done it. I wouldn't say alone because that's like insulting to Diana Matheson, Tangrady. Like there were some good women that were up, but like Christine Sinclair was just dominant for so long.
And like I said, she's been the face of Canadian soccer in general. For
not
a long
only
time.
women, like in general. You're absolutely right. So it will be. I'm interested to see who wins. Canada's always had a little bit of tough luck in these international awards of those sorts, but I'm hoping that they get recognized the way that they should.
So this is for like internationally, not like for
FIFA.
Like,
FIFA organizes this.
Okay.
Yeah.
Like I say, I can see. Yeah, like you said, I can see both. Like 2 out of the 3 winning their awards. Yeah.
I think it'd be realistic. I mean, just with what happened this year, I mean, Canada winning the Olympic gold was I wouldn't say like a Leicester City Cinderella story, but it's still a nice little story.
Expected that.
No one did.
No.
Like the Canadians did.
Oh, yeah.
The Canadian women did. I'm going to be honest with you, man. I thought semifinal would be. I'd be happy with the semifinal result because I'm like, this is good. Like, continue it.
Good for
keep on getting better.
Yeah.
Because I was scared against the States, but they outshone. And this isn't because I don't believe in the women. This has nothing to do with that. It's just I try being more of a realist, and I look at the lineups, and on paper the States might have looked like a better team, but now I'm looking back, I'm like, no, Canada just played well that game. And if I remember that game very clearly, and the States had like a lot of possessions, like almost all the shots, but Canada capitalized when they did. Like we defended incredibly well. We know that the way we're going to beat the States was through defense first and then the odd counter attack, and that's exactly how they did it. And it's just perfectly coached. Like that's how you win a game. It was perfectly coached, and then the players came up with their clutch moments at the clutch times. Sinclair getting that penalty in the final. What was her name? I think it was Rose that got the penalty in the semifinal. I forget who it is.
I don't remember.
But yeah, it was 2, and then Fleming getting those goals. Like it was such a solid team effort, and that's why I think Bev Priestman should at least get like very significant consideration as coach of the year, because she was a massive part of that team as well, and just like the team formation, who she picked to the lineup, and it was well done. And managing Sinclair too, who's getting, I wouldn't say getting up there in age. She's not old, but for a soccer player, she's up there, right? Yeah. But still, the greatest, my opinion, man. She is one of the greatest, one of the top 10 greatest Canadian athletes of all time, in my opinion.
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Like I'd put her up there with the Gretzky's. Like
for like what she's done to like for sport in Canada. Oh, definitely.
Yeah, 100%.
Like I'd even say like definitely like top 5. Maybe
top
3.
I was trying to think really hard as to who I would put on that list. Maybe you and I can. Hey, midweek episode idea.
Yeah, idea. There we go.
Incredible, hilarious. Well, and then moving on to the men real quick. Like the men, obviously, we talked. The last episode that we had posted on our channel was an all about footy episode where we recapped the men's the window. And I don't remember if we said this or not, but it's official now. Canadian men have moved up to an all-time high ranking of 40th in the world, which, I mean, at World Cup teams, still not super high. We would be in the lowest pot, facing the toughest opposition if we make it. But for Canada, it's proved to be significant growth. Like we were in the hundreds.
Yes, I was just gonna say
just a couple of years ago, I think. Yeah, and then we had by far the highest movement in the rankings this year. I think we started in like 70, 80, and we're up to 40 now with some massive results, and that's been incredible. And then our guys keep on showing up for their club teams. Like Alphonso Davies, I don't think played the whole games this week. Like he had a couple like slow, but I'm okay with that, man. Like he's played a lot of football over the last little bit, and he needs to take it. And Bayern recognizes that, and I have a lot of respect for that.
That's why they're my team.
Yeah, right. And then Jonathan David keeps on scoring.
Oh, yeah,
he keeps on scoring. Like that guy for club, goal machine right now.
Yeah,
and they're not even all penalty goals. Like he's the penalty taker, so he's gonna get, I don't know, like maybe 5-6 goals a year just on penalties, which
makes sense because you have to score on
that's the thing though. It's like penalties are a lot harder to take than people give them credit for. I honestly almost rather take free kicks than penalties, if I'm going to be completely honest with you. It's less pressure on the free kick,
yeah,
right?
But like me as a goalie, I'd rather do like penalty shots because I know like 90% it's going to go in, but that 10% is just it's just a ton of pressure for the shot taker.
I find there's a lot less pressure on the goalie in a penalty shot than anything else too. So it's like just guess. All you can do is guess, study up, and guess who's going to go, if they're going to go where, and then just pray to God you got a hand on it. Because sometimes sometimes you just hammer it so hard that you have to have like a fraction of a second reaction to get it, and that's just it's interesting. But so David scored for Lille. Buchanan's Club Bruges seems to be eliminated from the UEFA Champions League. They will be, however, in the Europa League once he joins them in January, so that will be still really good high-end competition for him to go to. Yeah. And then, who else? Ghent is who Ike Ugbo plays for, and he scored in the Europa League this week as well. So we're having a lot of Canadians, man. And then, so another big thing I want to mention too is there's Richie Larea and Jonathan Osorio. Both of their contracts are up with TFC, and they've both expressed interest in wanting to go over to Europe. We might have more Canadians playing over in Europe, and they're still pretty young. Yeah. Like Osorio's 28, so he's like near the ending of his prime kind of thing. But like he's still, I think they're both quality enough to be able to go and play there.
But yeah, like if they go to Europe, even at that age, it's still.
And it doesn't have to be any of the exactly, and it doesn't have to be a top 5 league for now. It can be just like Kyle Larin playing in Besiktas.
Oh yeah,
but learn there because you can.
Yeah, you're in opposition. It'll improve their game, which will definitely help Canada.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Yeah, 100%. I think I don't see really much negative in them going over to Europe and playing out there. I really don't. I think it'll just be super beneficial. I'm hoping they do, man. I think as of this current moment, I think we have 3 players that are good enough to play in the top 3 leagues. Davies, David, and Buchanan. I think Buchanan is good enough to play in like one of the Premier League, German League, French League, Italian League, or what's the other league? There's Spanish 5 major Spanish League. I think between like those 3, they're able to play easy in the top 5 leagues. I think they're talented enough for it. I think David and Buchanan needs more development on like a professional level, I think. And this is not a knock on Buchanan at all. I don't mean it to be, at least. Because like everybody needs to learn and develop, and I think Davies will continue to do that, but he's already done that at such a young age. And then Davies already playing in a big club in Lille, so I think Buchanan will learn from there. I think he's going to start off a little slow with Club Bruges, but then work his way up and really turn into a star. I think Larea is good enough to be a fullback in a top 5 league. I feel strongly about that. I think his defending and his IQ is there. I think he's just a bit of a hothead, and that might be an issue for him. Jonathan Osorio, I think, is pretty decent. I don't know if he's a top 5 European player kind of thing.
Like the league.
Yeah, he's not necessarily the quickest of foot, but he's making it work for the national program somehow. Right, so it's I think we definitely have. And then Kamal Miller. Kamal Miller is the best defender in this country right now. He's absolutely insane. I really want to see him. Like, he is the exact defender that should be in the Premier League. Big, strong dude that will win those 50-50s for you and does not let anybody get by him. That's the Premier League kind of defender that you want over there. So I'm going to make a bold prediction. I think the first Canadian to sign in the Premier League in a while and have an actual decent position and spot will be Kamal Miller. And they're going to sign him after this year, after the last of Canada's qualifying games for the World Cup.
And he's still very young too.
He's 23 or 4, right?
24, yeah.
Yeah. And this is perfect because he's just about to get into his prime. I think Kamal Miller is so underrated, and I think he will be up there. And we also have like Alistair Johnson, solid. Derek Cornelius is a really good defender. Mm-hmm. Not getting much time minutes with the national team because of Victoria doing so well, and same with Miller.
Yep.
Right, so I think this team is starting to, like, for me, they're really starting to look up. Like, this is a team that finally has good amount of depth, especially on forward. Defense not as much, but we still have we have this fullback we never call up Gregarious Darnold or something like that. I don't know, but he plays for Montreal FC in the MLS. But anyways, I think that's enough about soccer for now. We'll move over to the NBA. The Raptors are again still on a little bit of a slump. In their last 10, they're 3-7, and they're 9-11 overall. They just can't win at home, man. They're 2-6 at home. Like they just there's nothing they can do at home. And then away against the East, against the West, they're 2-4. Like they're just not doing very well right now. And I mean, it's kind of expected. They've had some injuries still. Like I would have to argue that they're probably one of the most injury-plagued teams in the league right now, if we're going to be honest. It wouldn't surprise me, to be honest. But You know what though? This is a season, man. Like I wouldn't say tank, but I would say like get a high draft pick, and then you're gonna have 2 stars in Barnes and the new draft pick that you can build around, and then go from there. You know what I mean? Like it's tough to win in the NBA. We've said it multiple times. It is tough to win without a legit superstar. Can you think of the last team that won the NBA championship without a legitimate superstar, like somebody that you would build your team around? Because I cannot. Like, it's been LeBron James. It's been, Steph Curry, and Klay Thompson. I think those are... Yeah. And Kevin Durant. Right? Like, and then it's been Kawhi Leonard, Giannis Antetokounmpo, and then you have the big 3 in San Antonio. Dirk Nowitzki was one of those guys, too. Like, man, I cannot think of a single team...
Thinking maybe the Pistons back in the early 2000s, but they still had really, really good players.
Yeah. The NBA is a league where you have to have at least one superstar because they have such an impact on your team. You know what I mean? Like, for example, I'm thinking the NHL, the last team to win without a legitimate superstar was St. Louis.
St. Louis, yeah.
I would even argue Tampa Bay has Vasilevsky. He's like the greatest goaltender right now. Yeah.
And they had Kucherov and
Kuch as well.
Yeah. And
miraculously came back from his injuries.
Miraculously.
But like you see what I'm saying, though, right? Like it's a lot easier.
Like hold up. For goalies, like especially in the NHL, for like you need a really good goalie too to like steal you games in the playoffs. I guess the only like team that had one that had like no like superstar goalie like a Vasilevsky or a Fleury. Besides St. Louis recently with Bennington was probably like Chicago.
Yeah, I was thinking Chicago with Niemi as well. Crawford, I think, was pretty good. I think Crawford he elevated his game for just the playoffs.
Yeah,
playoff Crawford was a top 3 goalie in the league, no question. Playoff Niemi was maybe a top 10. You know? Yeah, I agree. And then so the NBA, you need those stars, and like maybe Barnes will get there hopefully one day. I don't actually know many of the names coming up to this draft. I don't know if they're like generational talents or not. I think they're just going to be stars. I don't think they're going to be huge. So it'll be interesting. I mean,
but at least it'll help the team.
Yeah, I trust Masai Ujiri, man. I think he's a genius, and I think the Webster guy, who's like the current GM, is he Bobby Webster? I think he's a smart dude as well. So like they'll do the intelligent thing. Do you think they go into like a full-on rebuild in the next few years? I think
they
probably
kind of are.
If they are, they would have traded away Siakam, at least Siakam, and then a couple of like the older guys. Because I would think like our core should be Van Vliet, Anunoby, and Barnes. I think those are the big 3 that we should build around. I think Siakam is expendable.
I really liked Siakam, but
I liked him a lot. But ever since Kawhi Leonard left, Siakam has been a shadow of a man.
Yeah,
sorry. And there's nothing against Siakam. I like him as a person. I think he's a great player. He was incredible for us during the playoffs.
Didn't he win like the most improved like that?
Yeah, he won the most improved too. Like he was going in such a good trajectory, and I think, they got too much pressure on him.
Mm-hmm.
He wasn't going to be a top 5 player in the league. He was going to be a very good star and like an all-star perennial, but he was not going to be a superstar in the league. I don't ever. Like, he was not good enough for that. And like, just to be a star in the league means you're in the top 5% of the league. So let's not even kid ourselves. That's still exceptional, right?
Yeah.
But he's not in the top 1% is what I'm trying to get at.
Yeah, and especially how like tough the East is. Yeah, I would just say not tank, but like just look for the
don't like sell assets for the future to make it to the playoff this year is really what I'm going to get at.
Basically, just play the season, and wherever you land, and just play for next season.
Yeah, I completely agree. So, yeah, it's interesting how they're doing right now. But at the end of the day, I think they'll be fine.
They'll be fine.
Yeah, they sit 12th in the East right now. And then, like, Canadians in there, like, the Golden State Warriors are just dominating the league right now. Same with the Phoenix Suns, actually. Phoenix Suns are 17-3. So, I think it's going to be between those two who's going to come out of the West. I mean, it's early to see still, but those are some exceptional teams. And Golden State doesn't have Klay Thompson back yet. Can you imagine how good they're going to be once Klay comes back? Steph Curry's just playing out of his mind. And that's so good for our Canadian Andrew Wiggins to learn from.
Yeah, I was gonna say especially Golden State with how they're playing, still very good. But Phoenix with their 16-game win streak.
Yeah, it's nuts. They started the season 1-3, now they're 17-3. That's absurd. And then Golden State's still 9-1 too. Like, not to be discounted by any means. Right. Like, it's been pretty impressive, man. Like, the parity in the league is pretty good. But now you can really see who the best teams, the best two teams are. I don't think the East wins it this year. I don't think there's a deep enough team to beat either Golden State or Phoenix. Hopefully there's no big injuries for either of them, because that's what derailed the who was it last year? The Denver Nuggets.
Yes. Yeah.
If Jamal Murray was in there, Canadian Jamal Murray, if Jamal Murray was in there on the team and didn't tear his ACL, I think it would have made at least the conference finals.
Yeah. No, I agree.
That's a good team. Nikola Jokic is turning into a genuine superstar. And then Jamal Murray is like one of the better supporting. Like, I would put him better than Kyle Lowry. And like, lastly, I guess on the NBA, did you hear what Lowry said in regards to the Raptors? He said, "When I end my career, I want to sign a one-day contract and I want to retire as a Raptor." That's awesome, man. That's awesome. That guy needs a statue in the building. He's so the Raptors, I don't think, have a single jersey retired. Who do you think the first jersey they retire should be?
You gotta go with Vince.
You think Vince? Interesting. I'm thinking you gotta go Lowry. I think he's the greatest Raptor of all time.
Yeah, he would definitely be up there for like jersey retirement for the Raptors, but you gotta go with Vince first.
Okay, I like how we disagree on this, because this is perfect. Like,
well, like
I think Vince Carter
is. Vince Carter was for the Raptors.
He was incredible in building them into a relevant name in Canada. Yes. You're absolutely right. He was huge, but I'm saying Lowry because I don't think I've ever seen anybody show more heart for the Raptors than Kyle Lowry.
No, yeah, like
it's the equivalent of Ryan Smith to me. Ryan Smith to the Oilers is Kyle Lowry to the Raptors. Is that's how I would put it, and so that's interesting you point that out, because I do think when Vince Carter gets in the Hall of Fame, I do think the Raptors will retire his number.
Yeah.
But I associate Kyle Lowry more as a Raptor than I do Vince Carter.
Oh no, yeah, like definitely. Like first player you think of besides Vince for the Raptors is Kyle Lowry. Like maybe Chris Bosh, but Kyle Lowry definitely.
Yeah,
he's been there. He went through everything with the lows with the Raptors.
I think those will be the first two jerseys. I don't know in the order that they're gonna do it. I honestly feel that the second Lowry retires, they retire his jersey like the next season. That's how strongly I feel about how much that organization loves and respects Lowry. I think Vince Carter gets his jersey retired once he gets in the Hall of Fame. But I can honest to God see them waiting on Lowry to retire his number first, and then Vince like the next season. I can honest to God see that. just like the love that the organization has for Lowry at the moment. He was instrumental to bringing the championship to Toronto, right?
Yeah.
I don't know. It's an interesting conversation. I'm glad we had it, because it's like, I mean, who are the great? Maybe that can be another topic of future. The greatest Raptors of all time. Yeah,
Raptors.
100%. Because we had some good players in the team, man. Like,
we did.
Some good players. But anyways, and then I think that's it for the NBA. I mean, all we really need to know is, like, Raptors are 9-11. Unfortunate, but you know what? As long as they keep on learning and growing from these kinds of games, they're still a young team, and they got to learn from it, right?
Yeah.
So, moving on to the NFL. So, I'll start with this real quick. I have a buddy of mine. I think we spoke about this in the last podcast episode. Who's a big NFL fan. He used to play football, and he was on the defensive side of the ball most of the time. He's going to come on to the podcast one of these days and focus specifically on the defensive players, nice. The Canadian defensive players. Because, I mean, we've mentioned it multiple times on the podcast already that Celso and I don't necessarily know as much about the defense and the offense. And I figured bringing somebody who knows more than the two of us would be beneficial and helpful. So I don't think we'll talk much about the defense again this week. We'll mention like how their teams are doing, I guess. But I think we'll focus mostly on, our big two. And you have the stats in front of you, hey, Celso?
Yep. Like, last week, it didn't look like Chuba Hubbard played. Mm-hmm. But, like, in general, like, throughout the season, he's had 3 touchdowns, which is actually pretty good for, like, a rookie, especially playing it behind Christian McCaffrey.
Yeah.
So, 3 touchdowns through the season right now for Chuba is pretty awesome, especially because he's a local boy. Mm-hmm. Last week with Chase Claypool and the Pittsburgh Steelers, 5 receptions, 93 yards. Longest was 37 yards. So still pretty decent game for Chase. Like we've said lots of times, receivers are very reliant on their QB. That also, like, depending on like how they were being covered and everything, obviously it affects their play too. But for what he did during that game, that's still pretty good game for Chase Claypool. And that's honestly it, I guess. Not a lot for the 2 Canadian standouts that we've seen, but
yeah, I don't see either of those 2 making the playoffs this year. It's interesting how the playoff situation is looking right now. Like, we have a couple of like Carolina's 3 games back of 2.5 games back of Tampa for first in the NFC South, and I don't see them making it in the wild card spot at all. Like a Canadian, like, who has a good chance is the Cunningham, I think is what his name is, in the Chargers, one of the defensive ends or defensive tackles. He might have a decent chance in there. The Patriots might actually make the playoffs this year. Mac Jones is playing really good. I mean, it's just, to me, it's proving that Belichick is the greatest coach of all time, if we're going to be honest with you. Just bringing in another rookie, similar playing style. I think what screwed him over last year, it's not that Cam Newton played terribly, it's that Cam Newton just wasn't the right fit for that scheme. And I guess a good coach would have noticed that, and I think Belichick started to, but then COVID hit and all that kind of stuff. And then I don't think we can take away the fact that they were the biggest, most hit team by COVID, in the sense, like, almost all their defense stepped away, and half their roster decided to not play last year. It's like they were playing with practice squad guys in the starting lineup, and they still won like 3 or 4 games somehow. Like, it's nuts. Actually, they were middle of the pack. I don't know how they ended up middle of the pack. They almost made the playoffs. They were middle of the pack with a poor Cam Newton performances and all that. So it's pretty nuts. They're tied for first right now in the AFC East. 5-game win streak, I think, is the longest in the league at the current moment. Stat checking. Yep. Yeah, and then they're up already. At the moment of recording, they're up 7-0 against the Titans. And I can see them winning. And then the Patriots do have a good Canadian on there. The Mayor's kid, the receiver. So it will be it'll be nice to see. So I'm interested to see how many Canadians will be represented in the playoffs. I'm very interested to see that. I'm just now looking that my Packers play the Rams this week, and I'm very nervous. Nothing to do with Canada, but now I'm very nervous. Anyways, you hope they lose. Hey, how are your Seahawks doing, by the way?
Very bad.
Yeah.
But I'm not afraid to say it. They suck right now, but that's okay.
They used to have like their they had a player on that team that was a Canadian. Like what was it? One of their tight ends, I think.
No,
or like a defensive tackle.
I think it was a defensive player.
It was pretty good, man. He was a pretty good guy. He was a big part of the Legion.
No, he's an O-line.
O-line.
Actually. So he's part of the offense.
Yeah, he's part of the offense. Anyways, and then, I mean, yeah, Laurent Duvernay-Tardif isn't winning anything. He's in the Jets.
Unfortunately.
Yeah, poor guy. I feel bad for him, man. We'll touch base real quick on tennis. So, Davis Cup is on right now.
Oh, nice. Okay.
And you know how we said that we thought Canada should get out of the group really easy? Mm. None of our top 4 guys are on the team right now.
Wait, what?
Well, yeah, so Pospisil's playing, so he's the 4th ranked Canadian. And then we have Steven Matz or Dietz or whatever his name is, who's playing as well. Dietz, I think, is what his name is. And they're not. They lost against Sweden. They're going to lose against Kazakhstan. Canada will be out of the Davis Cup immediately. Shapovalov and Felix Auger-Aliassime decided to withdraw, take their names out of consideration. I think it's because they've played a lot of tennis. That's what I hear. It's because they played too much tennis and they want to rest up their bodies, which, okay, fine, but that sucks, man. Like, that sucks a lot. I guess they were both trying to qualify for the ATP Finals tournament and, like, get the ranking points off there. Like, if they were qualified for that already, they probably would have, like, skipped a tournament near the end and gone there. But they didn't qualify for the ATP Cup, so it was all for nothing. And just to not play for your country, that sucks, man. Canada would have had a legit chance of making it far, but now we have none. So, whatever. I mean,
what can you do?
Hopefully, we qualify for the Davis Cup next year and see how that goes in the future. But yeah, it was.
Oh man,
it's disappointing to see, man. Like, Canada had such a good chance in that tournament. Like, we have when Chapo plays his best, he can honestly beat anybody in the world. Genuinely. I think Chapo is that good of a player. And when Felix Auger-Aliassime plays his best, he can be a top 10 player for sure. I think he actually is at the moment a top 10 player. But I think I think anybody in the top 10 can beat each other, can beat anybody in the world when they're at their best. I think Medvedev is just complete different level. Once he's at his best, nobody beats him. I think he is now the dominant player in the world. And he'll be number 1 quick. He'll beat Djokovic there for sure.
Oh, definitely. Yeah.
At some point. But, yeah, and then we'll see because, like, the Australian Open's coming up is in January, as we've mentioned previous. We should have 3 Canadians in quarterfinal matchups. I think the 2 women, unless they get drawn against each other, I think they should both make it. Layla and Bianca. And I think at least one of Chapo or Felix should. Hopefully Milos comes back from injury because that guy's if Milos plays his game, he can beat most players just with his serve. It's just so lethal.
Oh yeah.
It's like when you have that good of a serve, you're almost guaranteed to win all of your games.
Yeah.
Right? Like yeah, all of your games because then you go into every tiebreak and then you just have to play decent. You have to win 1 point in the tiebreak against their serve. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
It's just nuts to me. Like, his defense has improved a lot, and his like footwork and all that stuff has improved significantly. However, he's injured all the time. Same with Bianca.
Yeah.
Those two need to either like maybe it's like the nutrition, like figure out get it. Like, but they need to figure something out, man, because like they're injured way too often, and like. Human science has developed enough that you should be able to identify what's causing it and stop it from happening. I mean, you're not going to ever prevent injuries fully, but you shouldn't be this injured. Like, there's something seriously wrong with your program if you're injured. Like, Bianca has been injured of the last 2 years. She's been injured like 20 months of it. But like, seriously, like how can you genuinely expect to do anything in tennis or in sports at all when you're injured that often? Like, it's physio can help, chiropractor, whatever it is. Just, you gotta add a nutritionist to that team. Nutrition helps a lot with injury preventions. Just, you gotta find a way, man. Like, they have to find a way of staying healthy because Milos could have had a significantly better career than he did if it wasn't for injuries. Oh, yeah. He was gone for most of his prime. And then Bianca's just starting her career. Like, you don't want to start as a Band-Aid. They gotta figure something else out because they have such potential to do well, and just going out the window right now because they're not playing. which is unfortunate. And Chapo and Felix are not injured as much. I mean, Chapo, I think both missed some time this year with injuries, but not like they're not missing 90% of the year because of injuries like Bianca and Milos are.
Yeah,
it's sad. I'm sad for them. I know they obviously they want to be playing tennis. They don't want to be injured, but I think it's something they got to fix something within the within their programs. Like they just hire a new nutritionist, hire somebody who just they need to look within to figure out what's happening here. But anyways, obviously we're talking about the NHL now.
Obviously.
Yeah. Well,
I mean, do you have anything to add for the
for tennis?
No, not really.
No. Sorry, it was a weird segue.
obviously.
NHL.
Yeah.
Hey man, Toronto Maple Leafs are still doing pretty damn well. I think they're in the top 5 in the league right now. I think we have 3 Canadian teams in the top 6 in the league for sure. Calgary, Toronto, and Edmonton are all
Top
up
7.
there. Top 7?
Yeah.
Hey, considering that Toronto is supposedly a has-been team that's going to lose and get eliminated from the playoffs already.
Well, maybe like in the first round, but still.
I definitely still think first round, but yeah.
But no, Toronto with 31 points, Edmonton with 30, and Calgary with 29, being in the top 7.
Yeah, it's not bad.
It's not bad.
Yeah, Calgary's down in 7th. It's because of their games played too. I think my biggest surprise is Calgary. I'll be completely honest with you. Their offense I didn't think was good.
No.
I still don't think their offense is very good.
Markstrom is just playing out of his mind.
Both their goalies are playing stupid
both
right
their
now.
goalies are playing
Yeah.
out of their mind. But mostly Markstrom.
Yeah. And they've each had, like, these 3 teams. Like, Calgary just lost against Winnipeg.
Good.
Yeah, I know. But, yeah, Calgary just lost against Winnipeg. But apart from that, they were on a good streak, man. Like, they were doing quite well. And then, like, Toronto just had a couple big wins, too, recently. Like, their most recent big win was, like, they won't be the Sharks, who are, going a little bit downhill. Sharks and Kings, like, they've had easier matchups, I guess. But Oilers prove that they can have the easier matchups and still lose. Like, how do you lose to Detroit and to Buffalo, man? I mean, I guess Detroit's doing well.
Yeah, I was going to say Detroit is playing.
And they almost lost to Arizona. Let's not even kid
almost,
ourselves.
yeah.
That game was closer than it should have been.
Yep.
But so, like, with respect to their division standings, Toronto is in first in front of Florida now, but Florida has a game in hand. That also being said, Tampa Bay has 3 games in hand on Toronto and is only 4 points back. So that is going to be a tight race. And then you have Detroit, who's in 4th, and then Boston, 5 games on hand. I think the highest that they could go was if they win all their games and everybody else stays the same, they would move into 3rd. Just judging by the statistics right now. You know what I mean? Like the win percentage?
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's. I thought it would be Toronto, Florida, Tampa, Boston as the top 4, and I'm sticking with it. I didn't say that order, but like I'm sticking with the top 4. Those are the top 4. I think Florida has like come back down to earth a little bit. They're 4-4-2 in their last 10. And then, like, I don't know, Huberdeau's is doing well. They have a couple big, like, Ekblad is still the face, like, the guy of that defense, like, the main dude. And they've got some good talent. And then Tavares was doing pretty well for Toronto, and I think that's a big reason why Toronto was starting to pick up over there. And Tampa Bay is going to go down a little bit because Kucherov's out for a while, and now Canadian Braden Point is out.
Yes.
And for a long time. And he actually might be injured so much that he doesn't attend the Olympics. Like, they're saying it's a long-term injury. So it would be interesting because I think, did we both have him on our teams?
Yes.
I think you did, and I had him as a sub.
Yeah, a sub.
As an extra, I think is how it was. Yeah, I mean, it will be interesting. And I think maybe at the end of this, we'll touch base on who we thought played themselves into and played themselves out of a Canadian squad. How about that?
Yep.
And then looking at the other divisions, I mean, there's no Canadian team in the Metropolitan, so we're not going to touch base too much on them. But like Sidney Crosby, face of Canadian hockey for so long, their Penguin, he's back, and their Penguins are doing half decent.
He's doing really good too.
How many points did Crosby? I saw a stat that this season Crosby's first 8 games he only had 2 points. Am I going crazy? I didn't think he was doing like super well. Like I thought the last game he played well, but.
Like he has 6 and 9.
Okay, so he got like a 4-point game last game then.
Must have, because he has 6 points now.
Hilarious. Anyways, Yeah, I mean, like, yeah, looking back on these guys here, like, I mean, how is it? Crosby, yeah, they're doing well. I mean, and then we have like Philly, who's below them. Couturier and the Philadelphia Flyers are not having a great season. 56 goals against is not a good look for Carter Hart. I think he's played himself out of the conversation to be the Canadian goalie. Dude, I saw a release that Price is still being considered to be the number one goalie for Canada. Eh?
Really?
Yeah. I wouldn't be surprised by it. No Canadian goalie has played their way into consideration, with the sole exception of Tristan Jarry. But Tristan Jarry was not on the list of on the short list of Canadians.
So that means he's not eligible.
I don't actually know if he will be eligible. Yeah, I have no idea.
I think like if you're not part of like that 50 that they had before,
yeah,
that you're not eligible to.
Which would kind of be BS in my opinion. It sucks a little bit
because then you start playing really well, but then you can't get
because
on the team. Because
they said Canada's roster is going to be built as not an all-star game, but like a legitimate contender. Like you want a good, obviously your top two, and that's why now I'm thinking like. They're going to have a legit shutdown line. That'll be their fourth line that could produce offense if needed, but like really focus on the defense. And that's where I see Mark Stone, Couturier coming in as two of the better defensive players in the league. You have a checking line that's literally just meant like big bodies that can hit that is going to create havoc on the other teams. And then you have two scoring lines. I think the way that they announced that is giving it like Bergeron is probably going to center his own checking line now. Because he's like the best defensive, one of the better defensive forwards still in the league. It'll be interesting to see what they do. The Jets have gone a little bit like of a little bit of a slump, I guess is what you can call it. I don't know if you can really even call it a slump that much.
No, the last 10 they were 4-4-2, but
yeah,
they did win their last game and they're still third, so they're still.
Yeah, and that was a big result for them against Calgary for sure.
Yes.
So they're third in their division. I mean. They should be fourth, though. Colorado is 1 point back, but 3 games in hand. So
and they're playing really well.
Colorado's,
without McKinnon too. So
yeah, do you guys remember how everybody was ripping on Colorado? Like, oh, they're not a playoff. Like, I hate people who just rip on them immediately. Like,
it's so early too.
So early.
Like at least wait until like the trade deadline, and then you can.
Unless you're the Oilers of old in the decade of darkness, then you're okay to give up in October.
Yeah, you're okay to give up in.
Or like Arizona, you're allowed to be like Arizona's out of the playoffs. Like there's no question. They should already have the mathematically eliminated button on them. Like it's no way they're winning, man. But yeah, Winnipeg's doing well. I mean, their goals for and goals against is 60 and 60. So their differential of 0, and I think that's the only team that's 0 and or negative that's in a playoff spot at the moment.
Yep.
That's pretty nuts. That's pretty nuts to think, honestly. And then, yeah, Montreal and Ottawa are second last and last in their division. Did you see the game yesterday for Ottawa? One of the Kings
Brendan
players,
Lemieux
Brendan Lemieux, bit Tkachuk.
Tkachuk, yeah.
He's offered an in-person hearing over Zoom.
I wouldn't doubt that. Yeah, like, did you see his hand?
Yeah.
Like,
do you think they finally get it right? Like, what do you think is a suspension?
Honestly, I with how like the NHL has been with like the officiating.
What do you think it should be? We don't care because the NHL is going to get it wrong.
Yeah.
What do you think it should be?
Probably like because I said in person, so it's probably like around. 5.
You're allowed to give 5 or more in person. Yeah.
I honestly would probably say like because did you see like the video of like their scrum?
Yeah, and then he bites him and then like drew blood.
Yeah, I'd probably say 5.
Yeah, I think
5.
I think they offer him 5, but I do think that's too light. 10. Who bites? Literally, no. But seriously, how is that a hockey play?
Bit, I think back in the day,
Brad Marchand licked a guy. Burrow spat, and that should have been a huge suspension. He
also bit like through the glove.
Oh yeah, he did. But like bare hand Lemieux.
Yeah, no, yeah.
You got to get that out of the game. Completely. There's nothing. Don't even think about telling me that it's something to do like that's a hockey play. No.
How is that a hockey
Children
play?
don't even fuck. And I love what Brady Tkachuk said afterwards. He was fired up.
As much as I hate the Tkachuks, yeah, no, I
love what he said afterwards, and like good on him for standing up for himself. Because that, in my opinion, minimum 10 games. Like make an example of him.
Who freaking bites?
So it's a joke.
So dumb.
It's a joke. If it was Rafi Torres, he would have been out of the league.
He would have been gone. Yeah.
Yeah. It should be at least 10. Like that hurts the wallet, man. That's what 10. That's 1/8. That's like 12.5% of your paycheck.
Especially for Brendan Lemieux, who isn't that good and isn't making that much. That's a lot of money.
Get him out, buddy. That's absurd. That is the most embarrassing thing I've seen in a very long time. Like just brutal. Anyways, that should be a big suspension, man. Like, but then so Ottawa's 4-14-1. Not great, man. Like ever since, I'm not saying it's because Tkachuk got named captain, but like ever since Tkachuk got named captain, it's gone downhill. They're 1-9-0 in their last 10, which is by far the worst record in the league right now. Like, actually, Islanders are 2-8, but apart from them, that's pretty bad.
Even Arizona's ahead of Ottawa by 1 point, but still.
That's embarrassing. Ottawa, it still has a lot to grow, still has a lot to learn.
Like, they have lots of young people, so that's...
And they were hit by COVID a lot.
Yes.
So let's not even kid ourselves. And then you and I did speak that most of their prospects that should still be considered prospects are playing on the team right now. And we'll touch base later because the Oilers have that same problem right now too.
Yes.
Right?
But
so,
we'll touch base on that.
We'll touch base on that. But I think, yeah. I think Ottawa gets out of it. I don't think they make the playoffs. I'd never had them as a playoff team.
But
I do think they're going to get better.
Yeah. They're not going to be like last in their division.
I don't know if they're going to be a lottery team now, though. Like, they might be the bottom three. Could you imagine if Ottawa gets Shane Wright? Like, which of the bottom teams, so Montreal, Ottawa, Islanders, Arizona, Vancouver, or Seattle, of all those teams, like the bottom two of each division that are actually not playing well.
The bottom three?
The bottom two. So I have Vancouver and Seattle, the bottom two in the Pacific. The Central, it's Chicago and Arizona. Metro is New Jersey and the Islanders. However, Jersey is actually playing well. They have 20 points in their game, so I'm not even going to count them. So just the Islanders. And then the Atlantic, let's include Buffalo because they're not great. So Buffalo, Montreal, Ottawa,
okay.
Islanders, Chicago, Arizona, Seattle, Vancouver. Of those bottom 8 teams in the league, who do you think needs Shane Wright the most and why?
I would say because Shane Wright is going to definitely be a superstar.
Yeah, and I was just going to say that. I genuinely think he's going to be, I wouldn't say McDavid, Draisaitl, Matthews quality, but I'm definitely going to go with prime Tavares at the absolute lowest.
Yeah.
90 points a season. I really think he can be that good.
Honestly, they're not bad, but it could they're probably going to be in the middle of the pack at the end of the season. But for right now, for your teams that you listed, Seattle would be a good one.
Could not agree more. I genuinely think that is the biggest team that needs it. Arizona needs a center.
Arizona.
Vancouver has Pettersson. I mean, don't take this the wrong way, anybody listening. Everyone can obviously use Shane Wright.
Oh, yeah.
Oilers,
even the
Toronto, everyone could use Shane Wright. He's going to be a superstar in this league at some point. However, the teams that need him the most are teams that have, in my opinion, not a number one center on their team. And I think Vancouver does.
Vancouver does.
We're not even going to kid ourselves. Vancouver, Elias Pettersson is an unbelievable hockey player, just having a garbage season this year. Okay.
Yeah.
Seattle Kraken, no number one center.
Number one.
Nothing against Jared McCann, but he's a very, 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 very good third line checking center or a decent second line center, not a first line center. No chance. No. Arizona does not even have an NHL center on their team, let alone a number one. Islanders have Barzal, who is a number one center. I don't necessarily think Islanders would need him as desperately.
No, they're having a bad season compared to the last few seasons, but
Montreal just signed Nick Suzuki to a massive deal. I don't think Suzuki is a number one center. I think he's a very good number two center, not a number one. I think they could use Shane Wright, and I think, Buffalo now obviously does not have a number one center because they got rid of Eichel. I think Buffalo could use him, but I would not want Shane Wright going there.
Not with the management and everything over there.
And then Ottawa has Stützle, but I still think Stützle is going to be a very good center in the league. I think he's going to be between number 1 and 2. But Shane Wright will be a guaranteed 1, and then
I'd love to see him in Ottawa.
That'd be an incredible 1-2 punch, and that 1-2 punch, in my opinion, would, in their primes, like in a few years, that would rival the 1-2 punch of the top 5 in the league, in my opinion. But that's the thing. Ottawa needs a goalie desperately. Like
they put Matt Murray in waivers.
Yeah, I saw that. That's pretty nuts. And 2 years left and $6 million plus a year. That's nobody's picking that up. No one is picking that up at all. Like they're not getting out of that contract. Poor Murray, just complete fall from grace too. Like he was going to be Canada's goalie if he was kept on going how he was.
But he hasn't been, I guess, the same after. I think he lost his dad. Or someone close to him.
I think something eventually happened, but I also think it's just the league figured out his style of play.
Like
just they figured out how to score against him. I think it's
mentally and
just,
like
I agree.
League like figuring him out.
Exactly. Yeah, I completely agree. So,
but yeah, for Shane Wright, I would love to see him in Seattle. I would love to see him in Ottawa. Arizona desperately needs him. But
see, the thing is, like, if Seattle gets Shane Wright, they automatically become a playoff caliber team, in my opinion. Like they get their number one center because now they have depth, they have scoring options. You know what I mean? Like that's what's lacking. Their defense is good, although their goaltending defense is playing like garbage right now. Like they have more depth than anyone, and I think Seattle's gonna be the most active team at the trade deadline. It would make the most sense to me.
Like
why not?
Wise?
Selling 100%.
Yeah.
You have no prospects, none. No. How are you gonna build it? Oh, get rid of all of your RFAs, UFAs, upcoming guys. Like, you know what? You guys came into the league, and you guys did a good job. Thank you. But like, do you sneeze?
I was going to.
But like, yeah, like, sell your upcoming UFA RFAs. Like they did a good job to start and do that. Which brings me to my next point, I guess. So, I guess first we'll touch on the Pacific. So, the Pacific, we have the first, second, and last teams that are Canadian. And Edmonton and Calgary have put some substantial distance between them and third now. So, it's a two-horse race at the top between Edmonton and Calgary right now. And then you have Anaheim, Vegas. I don't see Anaheim staying up.
Yeah. It's like a general thing where, like, if you're... Depending on where you are after American Thanksgiving, you're definitely gonna like.
You're likely to stay in that point. You're absolutely
So like Edmonton, Calgary are definitely gonna be there.
They would need two very big fall from grace.
Yeah.
And I'm still scared about the Oilers because our defense is depleted completely right now.
Especially our left side.
Yeah. Which I'm grateful it's the left because if it was the right, we had no one.
No.
We had absolutely no one. So like knock on wood still. The left, we actually have depth, right? And, like, if it's the right, then we'd have, like, 5 lefties playing, which Sam Marukov and Chris Russell can play the right if need be. So, not the end of the world in that sense. However, it's, it's not great. It's, oh, well. We're surviving right now. We won 2 of 3 with our guys injured, so. But, yeah, so that's all we need to know about the Pacific, I think, like.
Calgary's doing good, surprisingly.
So, of the Canadian teams this year, I can see Calgary, Edmonton, and Toronto being buyers of the deadline.
Oh, definitely.
I think... So, what do you think? Of those 3 teams, give me their 2 biggest...
Like, needs?
The 2 biggest needs. And I can go first because I've been thinking about this for a while, so I'll give you time to think. I'm going to start with Calgary. Their biggest 2 needs, I think it's get one more scoring forward, whether it be a winger. Their centers are playing unreal right now, so give me a top 6 winger right now, just to like compete, because then you can move one of those guys. Because Mangiapane is having an unreal year. He can play on the power play and whatnot, and like he's scoring you goals. But I think you need a top 6 winger and a bottom 6 forward just to be the grinder to get you some more depth scoring. I think their defense is doing decently enough, and their goaltending is the best in the league. So. With the and it's like by far the best in the league. They've allowed a total of 42 goals. Carolina's allowed 39 actually, so I apologize. I'm kind of wrong on that. But they've also played 2 fewer games. So statistically speaking, goals per game wise, yeah, Calgary is the best, has the fewest goals per game at 2. They've literally allowed 2 goals a game.
That's crazy.
That's nuts.
And I was gonna I'll just pick mine for Calgary. Basically the same thing. A top 6 winger and like a third third or fourth liner, like anywhere, but it'll
Yeah.
definitely help with their depth for sure.
Because what I think they have right now is I think they have a good playoff team, but I don't know if they can necessarily, like, their style is going to be a physical, hard game, but I don't know if it's going to have enough to score enough goals in the playoffs. That's why you get a top 6 winger and a bottom 6 grinder. That's how you're going to do well in the playoffs, and I think that's easy to get.
Because we've seen back like a couple of years, like their best players barely show up in the playoffs.
Yeah.
So yeah, adding another scoring winger or scoring top 6 player, would definitely help with, like, in case Goudreau or
exactly
don't
exactly. And I'm ideally you get a center. Like, they're probably going to be in the mix for Jared McCann, in my opinion, because I think he fits the second or third line center role or a winger. So moving on to Edmonton now. Edmonton, I think my two. It was before this week. It was a left D, but I think Broberg is playing well enough right now that he could fit a role in the second
Broberg is lefty.
Lefty, yeah.
Okay.
Him and Cece are playing outstanding right now together. And if that can continue even remotely close to what it is right now, that's a legit second pairing. And then Keith moves down to the third pairing with Bouchard, I think. Those two together would be huge. And then Barry, I don't know what it is about the first pairing with Barry, but I actually do see Barry getting traded for a shutdown kind of right D. A defensive-minded right D. I can see that happening. And then that guy goes into the third pairing. You know what I mean? So, like, I'm seeing Barry gets traded for that shutdown guy and either a draft pick or prospects that we later flip. I don't see Barry staying here much.
As much as I like him for his offense, yeah. And they just signed him. But
I don't think it's a bad signing. Saying this, I don't think it was a bad signing. I think it was a good signing for what we needed. But now he
basically, like, playing.
Bouchard is outplayed.
Kind of yeah,
Bouchard is outplayed.
Like, we thought Bouchard was still just going to be like third pairing still, but no, he just outplaying Barry. So he's so it's like we have Bouchard and he's making way less.
Exactly.
Why do
so I'm gonna cheat a little bit because I'm pretty much gonna give you 3.
Cheater.
I don't care. It's the Oilers. I'll do. I'll give you exactly what I think you need. Okay, you need a number 1 goalie. You need Fleury. Get me Flower, Gibson. One of those 2.
Yep, that's my
those 2 need to come in here. Get us a third line center.
Gibson.
Yeah,
holy crap!
Get us a third line center. Jared McCann is my dream. Get me Jared McCann up here. This team. If you get us Jared McCann, trade Barry for a shutdown, like a legitimate shutdown defenseman, like a Larson type.
Just bring back Larson.
Oh, he's not going to want to come back here.
But someone like him, yeah.
Someone like him, yeah. So get Jared McCann, a legit shutdown defenseman on the right side that can play big minute, like those minutes with Keith, because Keith is more offensive and he needs a defensive-minded guy with him. There's nobody on the right side that does that really. And then a number 1 goalie. This team needs to be a favorite to win the cup.
Even if you just get Gibson or Flower, you're still
that alone will get you enough to at least make it to the deeper runs.
Think like we would have to give up for
Gibson? A lot. First off, it'd have to be cap. Like we'd have like Mikko Koskinen in any goalie trade. Mikko Koskinen has to be going the other way.
Yes,
no
or
question.
Like trade or like get rid of Koskinen, so we have the cap to get Gibson.
But no team's accepting Koskinen. Like maybe Seattle accepts him at the draft just to get on the.
You mean the deadline?
At the deadline, sorry, just to get to the cap floor. But apart from that, I don't know who else would take him. But okay, so that being said, too,
you're definitely giving up your first.
Any trade to get a goalie, except for Flower, because he's in his last year and he's probably retiring after this year. If in a Gibson trade, it's your first. It's honestly probably Skinner. I wouldn't want to give him up though.
Like Konovalov is coming up, and
I would try to convince him to get Konovalov. But like realistically, this is what I think. Anaheim, this is what they would ask. I don't think they're going to get all of this, but I think like if a trade gets done,
all of it.
Like what they'll ask for is a first, Skinner, and like Samorukov or Lagesson or like one of those. So like a good prospect. A good goalie prospect and a first round pick, and then honestly probably like a Benson. They're gonna want some offense to come up there too. Like they want to improve their team in that sense and like just add depth. I see that's what probably Anaheim's gonna ask for. What I think Holland the most I would give up if I were Holland would be a first, I'd give up a first, Konovalov, Samorukov.
I'm thinking of another off.
I'm thinking of an offensive player.
Oh, no, I was gonna say another person that ends with off.
Yeah, right? Honestly, I would actually give up Benson in this trade. Because they're probably going to want one of Bourgault, actually. Bourgault, Holloway.
You're not giving up Holloway.
No, not for that. No. And that's why I'm okay with giving up Benson, because then if you give up Benson, Holloway comes in as a third line winger. Fogle can either move up or down your lineup. Same with Cassian. Like, yeah. I think Gibson is a big ask. It's a big ask.
But definitely worth.
100%. He's the number one goalie. He can win us the cup by himself.
Exactly.
Yeah.
He could be our Dwayne Wilson. Like,
but
if
better.
We get him, but if we get him in the deadline.
Yeah. It'll be interesting because I think we are now in the buy now stage. I don't think we're going to give. We have assets to give away. Like, not our top assets. I see Bourgault, Holloway staying with this team. I don't see us ever trading them, honestly, unless it's like a trade for like Ovechkin or something. You know what I mean? Like a big
I would even
name.
just do it for Gibson. Not Holloway, but like Bourgault.
I just think Bourgault hasn't developed enough to show he's going to be undervalued. Yeah. He'll be undervalued.
Yeah.
But anyways.
But I would just, if we can get Gibson, I would definitely give up what we need just to get Gibson.
Yeah, but you also can't overpay. Right?
No.
Because Gibson's on contract for another, 2-3 years? Not too long, but like still a good amount.
Good amount to like.
And you also have to think about the cap situation though, because next year Nurse is going up to $9 million, so that's all of Koskinen's contract is going towards Nurse's raise. Let's just put it that way, because then Skinner comes in and his entry level deal or like league minimum deal kind of thing. So we have like that alone is going to be enough, and then we have like I think the Sekera deal gets off the books next year and Greiba too. So
we'll have some.
We'll have some. But we still have a lot of guys to sign. It'll be interesting how Holland does it. Because he's got to get rid of some contracts. Okay, lastly, what's that? Toronto. What are their big additions that they need to do?
Well, Jack Campbell's playing out of his mind right now, so goalie, not really. And Hall is playing really well when he plays, too. So
yeah.
Goalie is fine. I don't know. They don't have that much to play with. I would probably say a defenseman, probably, and maybe some depth forwards. Because, like, I don't know, like, Spezza and them and his line are playing well. And you can't really do much with the top 5 because they're basically your top 6. So I would just go all out for, I guess, defenseman, if anything, for Toronto.
They need to bring in, doesn't matter their position, but it needs to be two impact guys. 2 guys that have Stanley Cup experience. That have won a round. Seriously.
Yeah.
That's the only way I see them winning a round.
But just someone that can help, like,
any position, just somebody that can help them learn how to win in the playoffs. That's it. Sure, I cheated a little bit again. I'm sorry. But anyone who has won in the playoffs in the past. That team, again, did you ever see that documentary? The All or Nothing?
Yet. I'm planning to, but not yet.
That was so evident that it was a players. It was so evident that it was a players that screwed them over in the last playoff run. It was unbelievably clear. They need to bring in 2 guys that can have an impact, not bottom 6 guys. No, I'm sorry. Like they have an important role in each team. Don't even get me wrong. But they're not, I don't know, they're not good enough to...
So basically, someone to take Richie off the first line?
Yeah. Like Phil Kessel could be one of those guys. Like
bring back Warpig? Sure. I can.
Yeah. But like anybody who's had experience in winning cups and that can lead. You know what I mean? Like, and I'm thinking like, obviously it's not these players, but like a player with the experience, like a Taze, Kane, like what we did with Keith. Like, get us anyone with experience of winning cups. Kopitar, Brown. Could you imagine Dustin Brown on the Leafs? That Brown is incredible leadership. That would be a huge one. The Leafs need to add 2 guys with playoff experience that can help you teach your team how to win games. They should have learned by now how to win a series. Same with the Oilers. We should have learned how to win those games in the last year. Should have been a 4-0 sweep. It was close. Like the 4-0 sweep was like the closest sweep of NHL history. They were all 1-goal games with the exception of the empty net game. and they're like two overtimes. But you need to learn how to win those games, and that's why Keith is there. He's not here for his outstanding defensive play. Sorry, he's not the defender he used to be. He can still produce. But he's here for his leadership and his experience. That's the biggest thing.
Yeah, like as much as like I wasn't like honestly I wasn't mad about the Keith trade. It was just more the money. But yeah, I agree with he brings the leadership into the team. Yeah,
and that's what I think Toronto's two biggest needs by far. Leadership. Yeah. Because, I think Tavares is a great leader. He's never won anything. I don't think he actually, you can say you know how to win, but until you win, you don't really know what it takes to win. You know what I mean? That's why, the best thing is, it's incredible. You lose, and then if you need to have a thirst to win, and you need to do whatever it takes, and I don't think Toronto has that right now. So, anyways, that brings us to the end of our episode today.
Thank you, everybody, much.
Thank you, everybody, very much for listening to our episode this week, and it was a little bit of a long one. So thank you for tuning in for the whole thing. Hopefully, and hopefully we'll see you guys again next week.
Sayonara.